You mentioned John Dominic Crossan, and he apparently believes in some sort of a resurrection. But my understanding that he denies a physical bodily resurrection. And I wondered if you could elaborate on what type of resurrection he is in fact positing, and then comment on how that type of resurrection cannot be squared with orthodoxy.
Thank you for the question. Can you hear me? Is this mic working? All right. Thank you for the question. I've dialogued personally with John Dominic Crossan on this, and our dialogue's been published in the form of a little book called Will the Real Jesus Please Stand Up? So if you would like to look at that further, I commend it to you. One of the frustrations that I have with modern theologians is the theological double talk that they engage in. My philosopher friends who are atheists are straight up with you. They don't believe in God. They say so. They don't believe in the resurrection of Jesus. They say it didn't happen. But modern theologians are disingenuous to the point of duplicity, I think. I know that's harsh, but I think it's true. They use these words, but so evacuate them of any meaning that, in fact, they don't really believe in the affirmations that they state. For example, you're absolutely right that Crossan will say things like, I believe in the resurrection of Jesus, and so forth. But he really doesn't. His view is that after the crucifixion, the body of Jesus was taken down, probably by the Roman soldiers, and simply thrown into a shallow dirt grave reserved for criminals, where it either rotted away or was dug up and eaten by wild dogs. And nothing happened to the corpse of Jesus in terms of it coming back to life or any such thing. For Crossan, the resurrection of Jesus means that the earliest disciples or Christian community, when they met together in worship, sensed the presence of Jesus with them. They sensed that somehow he was there in spirit. And they expressed this by saying, he is risen from the dead. So that they used language that was, frankly, it was totally un-Jewish. I mean, this is not the way a Jew would speak, but this is what Crossan thinks, is that they expressed their feeling of Jesus' presence by saying he is risen from the dead, and that's how belief in Jesus' resurrection originated. It really originally didn't mean anything happened to the corpse that was thrown in the ground. It just meant that Jesus' spiritual presence continued on with the disciples. But Crossan himself doesn't believe in the resurrection of Jesus in any literal sense of the word or in any Jewish sense of the word. A Jew, as I indicated in the talk, would not say anything of that sort that these modern theologians say. They would say he didn't rise from the dead, but his memory continues on, or we remember Jesus or something, but not that he was raised from the dead. And the reason that Crossan doesn't believe in these events as events of history is because he rejects the possibility of miracles. He doesn't believe in a personal God who can intervene in history and do things that the laws of nature themselves cannot accomplish. I think the key moment in our dialogue that I referred to came when during the discussion time, during the Q&A, I said to Crossan, on your view, did God exist during the Jurassic Age when no human beings were around? And he said, that's a meaningless question. And I said, no, surely that's a meaningful question. During the Jurassic period, when there were no human beings alive, was there a being who was the creator and the sustainer of the universe? And he said, well, I guess I would have to say no. Well, what became very obvious is that for Crossan, God is just sort of an interpretive framework that the individual believer puts on reality. But there isn't any objective, mind-independent entity out there who is the creator and sustainer of the universe. He didn't exist when there were no human beings because he is an imaginative or interpretive construct of believers, the way they view reality and put it on the universe. So in fact, Crossan is an atheist. He's literally an atheist. He doesn't believe that God exists, and therefore miracles are impossible, and therefore things like the resurrection, the virgin birth, the miracles of Jesus go out the window before you even sit down at the table to look at the evidence. So the problem here is not a want of historical evidence. As D.H. Van Dalen says, it is the theological or philosophical assumptions which are determining the conclusions in a case like this. So to answer your final question, I think Crossan's views, though he uses the language of orthodoxy, are completely unorthodox, and really, he's an atheist.